Before Zoe made his fortune, he had pursued me relentlessly for years. Everyone knew about it. His devotion to me was profound, and I had truly believed in it. Until our third year of marriage, paparazzi photographed him entering and leaving a female celebrity's private residence late at night. "Mr. Daniel, aren't you afraid of angering your wife and having her demand a divorce?" He looked at the camera, a faint, indifferent smile on his face, and said, "She won't and she wouldn't dare." The next day, I tore up the pregnancy test results, scheduled the procedure, and mailed him the divorce papers along with the fragmented embryo. When I found out I was 5 weeks pregnant, rumors about my husband Zoe and Kyle, the coldest female celebrity in the entertainment industry, were swirling. Clutching the results, my face pale, I watched the television screen. The video shot by paparazzi was playing on a loop, his car parked in Kyle's mansion driveway, him leaning against it, smoking one cigarette after another. When Kyle returned, he immediately went to greet her, carefully helping her out of the car. They seemed to argue. Kyle pushed him away, her face cold, but he showed no anger. Instead, he pursued her, humbly coaxing her. Finally, Zoe followed Kyle into the mansion, leaving 2 hours later. Kyle was known in the entertainment industry for her aloofness. This was the first romantic scandal she'd been involved in during her 8 years since debut. And almost all the gossip sites in the entertainment world were buzzing. As soon as Zoe's car arrived at the company headquarters, it was swarmed by the media. "Mr. Daniel, what about you and Ms. Kyle? As Taylor's lover, aren't you afraid of angering Taylor and causing a divorce?" Zoe raised a hand to stop his bodyguards and assistants. His handsome face was cold and calm as he looked at the camera, as if looking through it at me, who was watching on screen. "She won't and she wouldn't dare." The reporter who asked the question froze, about to speak, but Zoe's bodyguards had already separated the crowd, and his figure quickly disappeared from view. I still remember Zoe saying countless times that he would only ever love me. The day he married me, he, who was always reserved and composed, teared up. On our wedding night, he held me tightly, not letting go, murmuring repeatedly, "Henry, I finally married you. I, Zoe, am the happiest man in the world." For 3 years after our marriage, everyone knew he loved me profoundly. He was known as an exceptionally devoted husband. Now this brutal slap landed heavily on my face. It was late when I returned home from the hospital. Zoe had been drinking heavily, and was waiting for me on the sofa. Seeing me, he came forward as usual, took my bag, and knelt to help me change my shoes. For the first time, I avoided him. Zoe looked up at me. "Henry, are you upset? How long has this been going on?" I asked calmly. "About half a year, I guess. This is the second time." He seemed to have a headache, pinching his brow. He said hoarsely, "Henry, you know no one can shake your place in my heart, but sometimes you need to be understanding." "Understanding what?" I cut him off. "Understanding that you're stressed and need an outlet? You are my wife, the woman I love." He embraced me, burying his face in my neck. "Henry, there are some sordid things I can't do to you." "You did those things with her?" He hesitated for a moment, then denied. "I promise you, I use protection every time. There won't be any accidents." "What kind of accident?" I pushed him away, sneering. "Getting someone pregnant, or catching an STD?" "Henry," he frowned slightly, a hint of impatience in his voice. "Can you stop making a scene? My head is pounding." I looked at him, still that handsome face, still bearing the traces of his fervent love for me in our youth. "But you see, people change. When I was very young, my parents divorced, and my mother left me. Before she left, she repeatedly warned me, 'Henry, don't trust men, don't trust men's promises or vows.' I trusted Zoe, and so I paid the price. Let's get a divorce." "What did you say?" He seemed unable to believe it, suddenly looking up at me. "Let's get a divorce." "Divorce?" Zoe suddenly laughed. "Henry, you're not a child anymore. Don't be so naive. How would you survive if you divorced me?" "That's my business." I turned and walked toward the bedroom, taking out a suitcase to pack. Zoe leaned against the doorframe, watching me as if I were a spectacle. "Think carefully. If you divorce me, can you still afford bags worth millions and dresses costing hundreds of thousands? From head to toe, isn't everything you own bought with my money?" I simply pushed the suitcase aside. "You're right. I don't want anything you bought, anything bought with your money. I don't want any of it anymore, okay?" I turned toward the bathroom, casually grabbing some toiletries to stuff into my bag. He pursued me, his face flushed, his handsome features slightly distorted, gripping my arm tightly. I struggled, but he held me even tighter. "Henry, it was by marrying me that you got everything you have today. I'll pretend I didn't hear what you just said. Just be good, and I'll get rid of Kyle, ensuring nothing like this happens again. Let's just get through tonight, okay? He let go of me, then stroked my hair, his tone gentle. Seeing my expression soften, the tenderness in his eyes deepened. Get some good sleep. There's a company banquet tomorrow, and I'll pick you up in the afternoon. I'll go to the guest room tonight. You can have some quiet time. With that, he turned and left. The closing of the door was soft, yet it pierced my heart abruptly, like a rusty nail. I slowly slid to the floor, taking out the pregnancy report from my bag. Because of my mother, I had always been a staunch anti-marriage advocate, yet I ultimately decided to marry Zoe, even changing my mind to want a child of our own. I thought a child raised in a loving family would not be covered in thorns from insecurity like me, but now, I didn't hesitate to tear up the pregnancy test results and called my best friend Ruby. She was a doctor at a private hospital, and I asked her to schedule the earliest procedure for the next day. Ruby didn't ask many questions. When I arrived at the hospital early the next morning, she was already waiting for me. Henry, you've been trying to conceive for over a year now, and you've finally gotten pregnant. Are you sure you don't want it? No. I smiled at Ruby. Rather than bringing her into a world where her parents' relationship is broken and her family shattered, it's better not to bring her into this world to suffer. Ruby looked at me, her eyes filled with heartache. No matter what, I'll be by your side. I nodded, giving her a tight hug. The procedure was brief, and because it was painless, I felt no discomfort throughout. Ruby pushed the door open and came in. It might hurt a bit when the anesthesia wears off. If you feel uncomfortable anywhere, just call me. I'll be right outside. I stopped her and asked her to do something for me. Zoe called shortly after. Henry, did you send me something? Yes. What is it, that you had to mail it? His voice held a hint of indulgent laughter. See for yourself. I hung up the phone. He put down his phone and frowned as he opened the cardboard box. Inside was a fragmented embryo in a sealed bag, bloody and indistinct, along with a procedure report. He hurriedly picked up the paper bag next to it, nearly knocking over the glass of water. The paper bag contained 2 copies of the divorce papers, which I had drafted myself. I hadn't demanded half of his marital assets, only 1 suite and a car. Turning to the last page, there was my signature, written stroke by stroke, as carefully as when we registered our marriage years ago. Zoe's face was ashen, his jaw clenched tight. With trembling hands, he grabbed the sealed bag again, the fragmented blood and flesh a blurred mass. Only then did he understand that it contained the child we had once hoped for together. A drop of water suddenly splashed onto the transparent bag, and Zoe, as if going mad, suddenly clutched the bag and rushed out of the office. After hanging up his call, a dull ache throbbed deep in my lower abdomen. I hadn't slept all night and couldn't hold on any longer, falling into a dazed, restless sleep filled with chaotic dreams. Dreams of returning to my school days, when Zoe was lean and fair, gentle and handsome, excellent in academics, with remarkable EQ and IQ. And sage, academically brilliant yet a headache for teachers. A beautiful problematic girl who didn't cause trouble, didn't fight, didn't touch cigarettes or alcohol, didn't make bad friends, but often skipped classes and kept to herself. Countless boys liked me both inside and outside of school, but I never gave them a second glance. In my rebellious youth, my parents divorced. One left far away, the other remarried. My home felt like no home, and my aversion and resentment towards men were ingrained. The boys who pursued me all retreated because of my arrogant and harsh demeanor. Only Zoe remained steadfast, like a gentle rain soaking into the heart, slowly breaking down my defenses. When I skipped classes, I liked to hide at a quiet spot by the river behind the campus to listen to music, Nova's Twilight, playing on repeat in my headphones. I would sit there all afternoon, and he would stay with me all afternoon. When I was distraught and hiding on the rooftop, not allowing anyone near, it was he who kicked open the door to the rooftop terrace and embraced me as I sat precariously on the railing. For 3 years in high school and 2 in college, a full 5 years, he pursued me relentlessly, never once thinking of giving up. He had told all his relatives, friends, classmates, and even teachers multiple times earnestly, "I will marry no one but Sage in this life. She is the one for me." The day I agreed to be his girlfriend was at Amanda's Twilight, the same time my mother had left me without a backward glance years ago. He initially couldn't believe it, but with reddened eyes he grabbed a passing classmate and asked tremblingly, "Did you see?" Henry nodded. "She agreed to be my girlfriend, didn't she?" Everyone loudly told him. Yes, she said yes. He, who was then the vice president of the student council, dressed in a shirt and suit, ran across the Amanda like a child. I remember the evening breeze puffing out his white shirt, Remember him running to me, picking me up and spinning me around. Remember every word he said. But I don't remember when his hands also started touching other women. Or when his sweet words began to be spoken to other women. When did that Zoe, who had vowed to only ever be with Sage in this life, disappear? Henry, you also need to be understanding. I'm under a lot of pressure and need an outlet. You're the woman I love most. I can't do those sordid things to you. Divorce? Sage, how would you survive without me? What part of you isn't bought with my money? Henry, I love you. You are the only woman I love. No one can replace you. He embraced me, trying to kiss and caress me as he used to. I suddenly opened my eyes, jolting awake from the heart-wrenching dream. My stomach churned, and I leaned over the bed, throwing up violently. My phone rang a few times. It was a message from an unknown number. Happy now? Zoe doesn't want me anymore. You lawful wives are always so disgusting. Clinging to a husband who doesn't love you. You're shaming all women around the world. Do you think throwing a dramatic fit to get rid of me will give you peace of mind? If not me, there will be countless other Lynn Weiss and Chen Weiss. If you have the guts, make Zoe change his mind. Sage, do you know what your husband said about you when he was in bed with me? Sage is so proud and aloof. She still acts reserved even in bed with her own man. A fake prude, she deserves it. Clutching my phone, looking at the words on the screen, I had to admit Kyle was right. Zoe had promised last night to get rid of Kyle and ensure nothing similar would happen again. But I knew, as Kyle said, that if not her, there would be other women. Zoe had long grown tired of me. Or rather, tired of our lukewarm marriage and unchanging routine. He could have just told me directly, instead of marital infidelity, being gentle and doting on me while sleeping with other women, then returning home to pretend to be Daniel. When Zoe arrived at the hospital, I had just finished my 4-drip, and Ruby was helping me pack up, preparing to take me home. He pushed the door open, his Adam's apple bobbing, his thin lips pressed tightly. After reining in his emotions, he spoke hoarsely. Phoenix, I'd like to speak with Henry alone. Ruby didn't respond. I asked, did you sign? Zoe's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at me, his gaze dropping slightly, then closing his eyes. Henry, I told you. Answer my question. I cut him off. Will you sign? I won't sign. Then there's nothing to discuss. I withdrew my gaze and stood up. Phoenix, let's go. Zoe suddenly stepped forward and gripped my jaw. Ruby was both angry and furious. Zoe, what are you doing? Henry just had Isabella. Zoe pinned me against the wall, speaking through clenched teeth, almost word by word. Before you decided to terminate the pregnancy, did you ask the child's father? Ruby, when you helped Henry arrange the procedure, did you consider the consequences for her? That was a child, a life. What right did you have to make such a decision so casually? Ruby froze, biting her lip as tears fell. She didn't know how to answer, her face showing guilt and fear. Unable to bear her predicament, I gripped Zoe's wrist and pushed him away forcefully. Zoe, I'm talking to you. Don't take it out on Ruby. You know my temper. Even if she hadn't helped me, I would have gone to another hospital. This child had only one path, this dead end. The calmer my tone became, the more rage intensified on Zoe's face. When I mentioned the child, his eyes trembled with emotion, and a deep redness gradually clouded with moisture. The pain in my heart was no less than Zoe's. As he turned his face upwards to prevent his tears from falling, I couldn't deny a fleeting moment of wavering. We truly had loved each other. Perhaps we shouldn't have been so drastic. We should have left each other a way out. My eyes welled up, and finally, when Zoe looked at me, I couldn't hold back my tears. Henry, he opened his arms and hugged me. I stiffened for a moment, but didn't push him away. Zoe's face was buried in my neck, and I felt his scalding tears. Don't divorce me. Forgive me this once, Henry. The child is gone. Let's just say it wasn't meant to be. If you want a child in the future, we can always have another. Zoe, we've known each other for so many years. You should understand me. I touched his hair, still thick and dark. He is in his prime, young and accomplished, with a successful career, while I have long fallen behind him. Let's stop tormenting each other. Let's separate. Henry, Zoe cradled my face, bending down so his eyes were level with mine. I could see the panic and fear in his eyes. I know. I probably still love you. I can't bear to let you go, but your love, I no longer want it. Zoe, I am a bland and uninteresting woman. I can't satisfy your craving for excitement, nor can I play games. Look at me now. I'm just an ordinary homemaker, without even a decent job. I know the gap between us is widening, and as you said, without you, I can't afford bags worth millions or dresses costing hundreds of thousands. Henry, you know that was just angry talk. I don't want to divorce you. Angry words are still what you truly think, aren't they? I chuckled softly, covering my lower abdomen as I slowly sat down. Blood gushed out, and my face grew even paler. Zoe knelt down and clasped my hand. Henry, I stand by what I said. No matter what, I will not sign the divorce papers. I looked at him calmly. Zoe, what if I insist on divorcing? Impossible. He gripped my hand, his gaze falling to the ground. Then after a moment, he met my eyes. If you don't want Ruby to lose her job, if you don't want the doctors and nurses at the hospital to be implicated because of this procedure, then come home with me. Otherwise, I don't know how far I'll go. Henry, after all these years you know me. He suddenly smiled, gripping my wrist, his knuckles turning white from the force. Don't push me. Don't drive me insane. He released my hand and gently wiped my face. You know better than anyone how much I love you. The divorce with Zoe reached an impasse. Ruby received a notice from the hospital that she was temporarily suspended. The doctors and nurses who performed my procedure were also suspended. Zoe had heavily invested in acquiring this private hospital. As long as I didn't concede, they wouldn't be able to return to work at the hospital. These past few days, I received many messages from unknown numbers, mostly pleading with me. Zoe even personally returned to Julian. That evening, I received a call from my father. Henry, you're not young anymore. Yet you're still so willful, reckless, and audacious. Only Zoe would pamper and indulge you, not holding it against you. How will you explain having an abortion to the older generation of the Daniel family? Only Zoe is protecting you and helping you keep it quiet. And as for divorce, don't even think about it. Don't ever bring it up again. Your Aunt River and I rely on Zoe for our business, and your Oliver and Harper will need his support in the future. As an older sister, you're impulsive and reckless. Do you want to ruin your own future, and your Oliver and Harper's futures too? I knew what he would say, but hearing it still pained me. He was my father, one of my closest relatives. Yet he also had a new family, a wife, and children. How much did I, the daughter of his hated ex-wife, truly weigh in his heart? So it doesn't matter if a husband cheats? Even if he sleeps with someone else, his wife should be understanding and forgiving. Most men in the world are like this. If you divorce, will you find someone better? If your Harper married a man like this, would you also tell her to endure? How can you say that about your own Harper? She's only 20. Blake. He raised his voice. I couldn't help but laugh, my laughter growing louder and louder until tears streamed down my face. Blake, your dad didn't mean it that way. Of course, Zoe was wrong this time. Your dad has already scolded him. But think about it, you're 27. What will you do after a divorce? While he still feels guilty, quickly sees financial control. I hung up the phone. This should be the last time I shed tears over this matter. I called Zoe. The divorce can be postponed for now, but we must have a separation. He agreed without much thought. Having known each other for many years, we understood each other too well. Ruby and her colleagues returned to the hospital, Julian and Aunt River's business continued to thrive, and Oliver and Harper's futures were bright. As long as I bowed my head slightly, everything seemed to go back to normal. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Glad I hadn't stubbornly ruined their futures. But who thought about Sage? Who asked how much pain and torment she felt inside? In this world, everyone carries their own burdens, and as my stepmother would say, Henry just lives too comfortably, too unyielding to compromise. I moved back into the condo I owned before marriage, the first 3-bedroom apartment we saved up to buy a down payment for. He didn't disturb me much, sending the freshest hydrangeas every morning, occasionally calling for small talk, and sending location updates every night when he went home. He wanted to tell me he had truly broken off with those women, and was genuinely remorseful. I didn't find this gesture childish, nor was I moved. I simply ignored it with indifference, and began preparing for a new life. Zoe's words reminded me. When one's hand is open for receiving, even a victim appears to lack confidence. After Alexander, Zoe came to this suite for the first time. When he knocked, I was organizing my translation manuscript. My health had been recovering well lately, and a senior from my university had introduced me to some freelance translation work. I completed it well and she introduced more clients, so I had been very busy recently. Opening the door, a strong smell of alcohol assailed me. Zoe had drunk a lot. His secretary could barely support him. Mr. Daniel drank too much tonight at a business dinner. Henry, he pushed the secretary away and embraced me. most of his weight pressing against me, his face rubbing against mine, his arms tightly wrapped around me, calling my name repeatedly. The secretary closed the door and left. It took effort for me to push him away. He leaned against the back of the door, loosened his tie, and pressed his brow. His face showed deep fatigue, he had lost some weight, and his complexion was haggard. Henry, he softly called my name. Those eyes that were gentle in his youth and later profound, now held a childlike grievance. How much longer will you be angry? Please talk to me. My throat felt constricted, and my tear ducts ached. Through countless sleepless nights, I had tried to convince myself to forget and forgive him. But whenever I closed my eyes, I saw him and Kyle entangled. I couldn't believe how a man who loved his wife could so calmly sleep with other women. It's late, I need to rest. You should go back too. I turned to enter the room. Zoe grabbed my wrist, then embraced me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. Henry, he lightly kissed my earlobe. Can we make up? Do you know how I've spent this month? Coming home and not seeing you, that house feels like an icebox. He held me tighter, kissing me eagerly. Henry, look at me, just look at me again. We still love each other, don't we? My tears streamed down. I had never denied loving Zoe. Otherwise I wouldn't have struggled so painfully. But precisely because I loved him, I couldn't untangle this knot. Zoe, separation was what you agreed to. If there's a second time, I'll have my lawyer file a lawsuit directly. Don't threaten me with anyone else again. You were the one who broke your promise first. I pushed him away with all my strength. Just leave. This time I'll pretend nothing happened. After Zoe left that night, I didn't see him for nearly 2 months, but fresh flowers still arrived every day. The flowers were innocent, and I didn't discard them. I'm not fond of socializing. I can focus on my work, my prices are fair, clients are satisfied, and collaborations are increasing. Being busy left me no time for melancholy. Ruby invited me for coffee, and it was from her that I learned Kyle had announced her retirement from the industry. Her current state was extremely poor, her endorsements and business deals were affected, and she had to pay huge penalties for breach of contract, which seemed to be all orchestrated by Zoe. Didn't he harass you with messages before? I guess that's what she deserved, right? If Zoe hadn't provoked her, Kyle would still be a sought-after celebrity. Even if she deserved what she got, Zoe was the real culprit. After Ruby finished speaking, she looked at me cautiously. Blake, what are your plans now? Will you remain in separation from him? Phoenix, just tell me directly. Blake, actually I really regret it. Regarding the child, I should have advised you to think more calmly. I held her hand. Phoenix, I was very calm, and I don't regret the decisions I made. I grew up in a broken home. I know the pain it entails, so don't feel burdened. But Zoe really seems remorseful now. I smiled but didn't answer. Before Christmas, Sophia, a mutual friend of Zoe and mine, suddenly called me. Henry, there's something I don't know if I should tell you. On the other end of the line, Sophia fell silent. He was my college Benjamin. He had helped Zoe when he started his business after graduation, and their relationship had been good over the years. Sophia was 3 years older than me, 30, unmarried, and without a girlfriend. I had once thought of introducing Ruby to him, but he politely declined. Zoe later told me that Sophia likes someone who was already married, so I dropped the idea of an introduction. How have you and Zoe been lately? Sophia suddenly asked, pulling my thoughts back. We haven't met recently. Are you sure you want to divorce him? Benjamin, you can speak directly. I had a premonition that it concerned Zoe, but I hadn't expected him to break his vows again so quickly. On Christmas Eve, Zoe came to see me, but I didn't open the door. He called again and I answered. Henry, do you know how stubbornly hateful you can be? Clutching my phone, I chuckled softly. Zoe, what right does someone who breaks their vows have to talk about hatred? He hung up and turned to leave. I put down my phone and walked to the window. A moment later, I saw his figure dressed in a black Emily, standing tall and straight, his stride powerful, his presence commanding. As he reached his car, he suddenly stopped and looked up at the building. I didn't turn away. Lovers had become bitter enemies, and even a city-wide Oliver couldn't bridge the chasm. At that moment, I wasn't as sad as I imagined. I only felt a sense of desolation. Sophia called again on the 3rd day after Christmas. Henry, if you still want to divorce Zoe, tell me the address now and come immediately. If you want to save your marriage, then pretend I never called. I didn't hesitate. Benjamin, tell me the address. An hour later, I arrived at the private members club Sophia mentioned. He came out to meet me, naturally holding the umbrella for me. Do you want me to come in with you? I shook my head, stopping before the elevator. Benjamin, you said on the phone earlier that the woman Zoe was with looked a lot like me, didn't you? Only her face is a bit similar, Sophia said, looking steadily at me. She's completely different in every other way. Blake, you are unique. I smiled. Benjamin, thank you. I want to go up now. Sophia said nothing more, and pressed the button to open the elevator for me. The elevator stopped on the 6th floor. Stepping out, I faced a long corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly. I had once thought I would be alone my entire life. Zoe's appearance changed me. He held my hand for so many years. Now he was tired and bored, and it didn't seem so outrageous. I told myself inwardly, Henry, whatever you see, don't cry or make a scene. Maintain your dignity. Following Sophia's directions, I found the only suite on that floor. Zoe hadn't even locked the door. A gentle push opened it. The room was dimly lit, but enough to see everything clearly. The air was thick with a familiar, decadent smell. A woman with disheveled hair was kneeling before Zoe, who was leaning back in the armchair, his shirt disheveled, his belt undone. My push of the door was soft, and neither of them was startled. The sounds of their revelry waxed and waned. He suddenly gripped the woman's hair, and as he sat up, his eyes opened, spotting me standing in the doorway. In that instant, the world fell silent as death, and all sounds vanished from my ears. Henry, won't you try? Hold my hand, just hold it like this, and promise never to let go. Henry, try to trust me, it's not that hard, is it? Young Zoe's eyes were clear and resolute, his vows true, his love genuine. In that year, every word was real. How could young Sage not feel it? But love that burned too fiercely would always leave behind a trail of desolation. Henry. He pushed the woman away, rising with a hurried awkwardness. I raised my hand and pointed at him. Put your clothes on first. The smell in the room was nauseating. I turned and walked out, heading to the terrace at the end of the hall. When Zoe emerged, he was already dressed neatly. Neither of us spoke. The sound of Oliver falling was so soft, yet it was clearly audible at that moment. The day I married him, he stood on the stage to put the ring on my finger. As the groom embraced and kissed the bride, I whispered only one thing in his ear. Zoe, don't let me down. You only get one chance. But it has always been this way. Those who plead not to be betrayed are always betrayed in the end. I stood for a long time, until my hands and feet were numb with cold. Winter truly isn't appealing. In the cold, one always craves warmth and comfort. And even the resolve to break up must be weighed repeatedly. But I was grateful for the cold. It allowed me to maintain my dignity and composure. Let's finalize the divorce tomorrow. I turned to look at the man I had loved for years. Even now, I couldn't deny loving him. How could one simply stop loving someone who had changed all your boundaries and been intertwined with your life for over a decade? It's just that in this world, love isn't everything. I smiled at him. After knowing each other for so many years, I still hope we can part amicably. So close, I saw his entire body tremble. Some things I can't understand, so I've stopped forcing myself to try. One always has to learn to let go. His voice was hoarse. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Let's just follow the divorce papers. I no longer looked at him, pulling my Emily tighter. I don't want to waste time dividing assets. I can support myself. One person doesn't need to eat much, doesn't need a big house, and spends less. All the money was earned by you. Thank you for taking care of me these past few years. At 9 the next morning, I waited for Zoe at the county clerk's office. The divorce proceedings went smoothly. Besides the property I had mentioned, Zoe stubbornly transferred half of his company shares to me, which I didn't refuse. The moment I signed and put down the pen, I let out a soft breath, feeling an indescribable lightness. Zoe had probably been up all night. His eyes were bruised, his stubble unshaven, and he seemed utterly distraught throughout the entire process. As I walked out the main doors, he called out to me, Henry, I'll take you home. No need, Phoenix is waiting for me. I waved him off. Oliver is heavy, drive carefully. He stood rooted to the spot, Oliver swirling around him, quickly dusting his hair and shoulders white. I paused for a moment but didn't look back. Zoe, my voice was loud, not out of anger, but as a way to sever the past. We won't say goodbye. We won't ever see each other again. I continued walking forward, not looking back until I got into the car. Ruby started the car and glanced in the rearview mirror. Blake, Zoe is still standing there. Let him be. Henry, how long will you be away this time? My previous translation client wanted to expand into overseas markets, and pleased with our cooperation, genuinely invited me to work as a translator at their international branch office. requiring me to reside there for at least 3 years. 3 years, I guess. It'll be good to travel and see the world. What if I miss you? Ruby said, a hint of reluctance in her voice. Come visit me on your vacation. Food, lodging, and entertainment included. How about that? You wait, I'll definitely come find you. The day after divorcing Zoe, Sophia asked to meet me at a restaurant I liked in college. A woman's sixth sense is sharp. I had a faint suspicion on the way, and by the time I saw Sophia, my guess was largely confirmed. He had clearly dressed up deliberately, holding my favorite hydrangeas. After ending a terrible marriage, it might be pleasant to quickly have an excellent man signal his pursuit. But in my thoughts, some things gradually connected. Given Zoe's current status and position, it would be easy for him to hide things. Kyle had been in the entertainment industry for many years. How could she be so easily photographed by paparazzi? In fact, when he called on Christmas Eve, I had already sensed something, but only now that the dust had settled did I have the mental space to think Sophia. He must be the one who fanned the flames, right? Naturally, I wouldn't resent the person who exposed the festering wound of my failed marriage. Rather, I should thank him for helping me divorce smoothly. But I also clearly knew that Sophia's liking for me might be genuine to some extent, but more likely stemmed from an obsession born of unrequited desire. If I accepted him out of spite, it would only be a momentary satisfaction, and tragedy would simply repeat itself. I wouldn't allow myself to stumble over the same mistake twice. Henry. He walked toward me, holding the flowers, but I didn't take them. Oliver fell silently, and I looked at him, my eyes calm. Benjamin, perhaps you could try calling me by my name for once. Sophia's hand, holding the flowers, slowly dropped, and the smile on his face faded with it. Do you really have to leave? Sophia was always composed, even with my refusal being so obvious. Yes, I'm already processing my visa. Henry, I know the timing isn't right, especially since you just divorced Zoe. But I'm afraid if I hesitate any longer, I'll miss my chance with you again. Benjamin. I cut him off. You're just caught in an obsession, like Zoe back then. You're highly competitive and refuse to admit defeat. Rather than loyal love, it's more about enjoying the process of conquest. From Kyle, whom he later cheated with, to that woman who looked like me, they all shared a common trait: proud and aloof, easily stirring a man's desire to conquer. But after Zoe conquered them, he immediately found them dull and uninteresting. If it weren't for our youthful connection, he might have treated me worse than Kyle and the others. Because he didn't get me, he was fixated. But if he had, the idealized white moonlight would become a common grain of rice, and a passionate cinnabar mole would turn into a bothersome mosquito bite. Henry, you're not me. You can't speculate and misunderstand my feelings for you. You've been hurt, and you no longer believe in vows, but you can't condemn me because of Zoe. But Sophia, I looked at him calmly and distantly. Why should I risk my future and happiness again just to prove whether your feelings are real or not? I'm honored that you've liked me for many years, but I'm also sorry, I don't like you. Even as a divorced woman, even if you could be a partner who helps me regain my pride, I will no longer tie my worth and happiness to a man. During the days leading up to my departure abroad, I continued to hear news of Zoe intermittently. One night, I received a call from a friend, but it was Zoe's voice on the other end. He only called out Henry, nothing more. After I hung up, he didn't call again. Another time, Zoe's mother called. He had been drinking heavily and was rushed to the emergency room with a stomach hemorrhage. She asked if I could talk to Zoe, but I refused. Zoe's mother cried over the phone. Zoe has been putting himself through hell lately. He's truly regretful. Henry, can't you give him another chance? I hung up before she could finish. On the way to the airport, my phone kept ringing. Old friends were calling one by one, and I knew it was Zoe. I didn't answer the last call until 5 minutes before boarding the plane. Blake, are you on the plane yet? I heard hurried footsteps on the other end, and his voice was heavily labored. Yes, I'm on board. We're about to take off. Henry, I'll wait for you to come back. I looked out the window, knowing I wouldn't see him. Henry, I'll wait for you to come back, he repeated. My heart remained calm. There's no need to wait, Zoe. I watched the distant sky being swallowed by the setting sun. Every definitive goodbye in life seemed to happen at twilight. Even if I wait a lifetime, I won't give up. I smiled silently and ended the call. I was no longer 18-year-old Sage. Only a fool would believe in forever. I leaned back in my seat, wearing headphones, eyes closed, listening to the songs I loved most when I was younger. I was someone who clung to the past, yet I never looked back. Zoe's perspective: it was Henry's third year abroad when Nova, the singer we loved in school, made a comeback and held concerts. I attended one of them. In high school, I once told Henry I'd take him to countless Nova concerts in the future. Later, he retired from the industry due to illness and remained silent for several years. Such a simple thing. Yet I never managed to do it for him. Not even by the time we divorced. As Nova stood on stage singing Twilight, the audience of 10,000 sang along in unison. The scruffy bearded man beside me was sobbing uncontrollably, and I, standing out of place in the crowd, found my face streaked with tears without realizing when they started. I still remember the tears that fell from your eyes, heartbreaking despair in the chaos, a burning sensation, as if hot tears had scorched me the twilight horizon, severing joy and happiness. Our love now an illusion, I still remember the goodbye you uttered, resolute as iron in the dimness, a delusion of being burned by a scorching sun. The day Henry and I signed the divorce papers, Crestwood City was blanketed in Oliver. I vividly remember that day. Outside the county clerk's office, as he walked away without looking back, I felt as if I'd been plunged into an ice pit, yet simultaneously scorched by a blazing sun. I had never imagined separating from Henry. I always believed no one could pull us apart. Yet in the end, I was the one who lost him, my most beloved girl. I had wanted to give her everything good in the world, but I ended up being the one who hurt her the most. Someone once asked me, if you loved Sage that much, why did you commit marital infidelity? I've asked myself countless times. I loved him, I would have risked my life for him, so why did I still commit marital infidelity? I never found an answer. I didn't even understand why I slept with those women. Was it seeking thrills? Was our marriage too placid? None of the above. I had forgotten my original intention. I was conceited, believing Sage couldn't leave me, that he would always forgive and accept me because I, Zoe, was the only man who could ever truly reach Sage's heart. Because I had plucked down the moon, he no longer hung brightly in the sky. Gradually, I only saw his ordinariness, forgetting how brilliant he once was. I forgot what the real Sage was like, forgot what he had said. Zoe, I don't believe in love, but I choose to believe in you. Remember this clearly. I'm only giving you one chance. If you lose me, you'll never get me back. He kept his word. Beautiful and gentle on the outside, but proud and stubborn deep down. How could I have thought Kyle and that other woman were like him? They weren't even remotely similar. In Henry's second year abroad, I heard from Ruby that he had dated a biracial man, but the relationship only lasted half a year. Ruby said Blake was particularly happy. If that man hadn't pressured him into marriage and secretly punctured condoms, Henry wouldn't have broken up with him so quickly. Later, he had a few more relationships. All those men wanted to marry him, but he solidified his resolve not to marry. He walked away freely, never looking back. Yet he became an unforgettable cinnabar mole for every boyfriend he had. His current partner was a romantic Italian gentleman. I had seen a photo on Ruby's social media. Henry, wearing a bikini, stood beside him, leaning on him endearingly, smiling with unrestrained joy. In one photo, the blonde man was holding him tightly, leaning down to kiss him, and Henry was on his tiptoes, passionately returning the kiss. I was consumed by insane jealousy, yet I looked at those photos again and again. Later, I begged Ruby to call Henry using her phone. When the call connected, his bright, cheerful laughter came through. "Darling, did you miss me?" In that moment, I trembled all over, my tongue tied. All I could manage were rapid breaths and heartbeats. I couldn't utter a single word. "Phoenix, why aren't you saying anything?" His cheerful voice sounded again. Finally, I managed to speak. "Henry, it's me." There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then he spoke again, greeting me like an old friend. "Zoe, how have you been lately?" I wanted to say, "I'm not good, not at all." But what came out was, "I'm fine, how about you?" "I'm fine too." "Henry." "Zoe, my boyfriend's calling me. I can't talk right now." "No problem, goodbye then." He had already hung up. Ruby watched me, arms crossed. "Zoe, why bother?" Yes, why bother indeed. Once again, it was twilight. I seemed to see a young Sage, sitting all alone by the river, listening to music. Back then, he was the moon I couldn't reach, hung high in the sky. I had personally plucked down that precious moon, only to later resent that he was no longer bright. But how could someone who lost the moon ever find peace?